Hey friends, it's me, your girl Kristen Denise, also known as KD, and here we are with day 19 of Black History Month. I am super excited about today, and before we jump in, I want to just say thank you again, as always, to everybody who likes, comments, who shares. I appreciate you. You people who come with slightly negative comments, get your life together. If my content is not for you, don't watch it. Why watch it and be mad? That don't make no sense to me. If you don't like it, if it's not for you, go and find what's for you, okay? But I am for who I am for, and I'm going to keep focusing on my audience. It's okay to not be my audience, but you don't get to tell me how to behave on my page, okay? Okay, now that that's out the way, let's jump right in to today's person. It's going to be another super dope, phenomenal Black woman, because I am choosing to highlight the work of Black women, which is often overlooked and not on my watch as a Black woman, like, for real. And that person I'm going to talk about today is Shirley Chisholm. If you do not know who Shirley Chisholm is, you're in for a treat, because she was that girl. So Shirley Chisholm was born in 1924 and transitioned in 2005. She was a politician. She was an educator. Y'all know how I feel about my educators. And she was absolutely a trailblazer. She was a political pioneer, activist, and educator who shattered barriers as the first Black woman elected to U.S. Congress, and the first Black person, male or female, to run for a major party's presidential nomination. Throughout her career, Shirley Chisholm fought tirelessly for racial justice, gender equality, education reform, and the rights of marginalized communities. She was known for her bold, unapologetic leadership. Her campaign slogan was Unbought and Unbossed. I'm with it. And she was refusing to be controlled by political machines or special interests. Her campaign slogan, again, Unbought and Unbossed, captured her fearless commitment to authenticity, justice, and change. Her life is a powerful, powerful lesson in courage, persistence, and the importance of representation in politics. She went to college and graduated from Brooklyn College in 1946, and she became involved in debates about racial and gender inequality during that time. She ended up earning a master's degree in early childhood education from Columbia University in 1952. And her background as the daughter of Caribbean immigrants and her work as a teacher and an education consultant shaped her very strong advocacy for education reform and economic justice. Again, she had a trailblazing political career as the first Black woman elected to Congress in 1968. She was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, representing New York's 12th congressional district. She was met with sexism and racism from both Democrats and Republicans, and many in Congress treated her as an outsider and refused to take her seriously. But she responded by fighting back to make sure that her voice was heard and demanding seats on meaningful committees because she refused to be sidelined. Her key achievements were she advocated for minimum wage increases and better working conditions for domestic workers. She helped expand food programs for poor families and school children. She championed education reform and affordable child care for working mothers. She co-founded the Congressional Black Caucus in 1971 to increase Black political power. And she also co-founded the National Women's Political Caucus in 1971 to fight for women's rights in government. Her legislative work focused on issues that affected working class people, women, and communities of color. Again, she was the first Black person to run for a major party's presidential nomination, which she did in 1972. She announced her candidacy for the Democratic presidential nomination, becoming the first Black person and the first woman to seek a nomination from a major U.S. party. She received little financial support, unfortunately, from the Democratic Party at the time. She was often excluded from televised debates, and she faced death threats and intense sexism and racism during her campaign. Despite the odds, she still earned 152 delegate votes at the Democratic National Convention. She inspired millions of Black and female voters to demand greater representation, and she paved the way for future presidential candidates like Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Kamala Harris. Although she did not win the nomination, her campaign was a groundbreaking moment in U.S. history and politics, proving that a Black woman could run for the highest office in the land. Now, just her advocacy, she was a champion for women's rights. So she challenged sexism in politics, often fighting battles within her own party, which is a shame. She advocated for abortion rights, equal pay, and more women in leadership roles. She believed that gender discrimination was just as damaging as racial discrimination. And it is. A quote from her is, "The emotional, sexual, and psychological stereotyping of females began with the doctor say, 'It's a girl.' Basically, all my life I had to fight." Okay, she was an advocate for poor and working class Americans. She supported the concept of a universal basic income and called for economic reforms to end poverty. She fought to expand food assistance programs like WIC and SNAP, and she championed worker protections and fair wages for marginalized workers. Her education reform and racial justice initiatives included pushing for federal funding for education, especially in Black and Brown communities. She believed that a quality education was the key to breaking the cycle of poverty. She ain't wrong. And she supported affirmative action and desegregation policies. Even within the civil rights movement, she still faced a lot of resistance as a Black woman. There were male leaders who did not want to support her presidential run, believing she was too independent. White feminists often excluded Black women from leadership in the women's rights movement, and she was often seen as too radical by some and then too moderate by others, but she never wavered in her beliefs. She retired from Congress in 1983 after serving 7 terms. She continued advocating for education, Black political power, and women's leadership. She was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in 1993, and she passed away in 2005, but clearly her impact lives on. She said, "I want to be remembered as a woman who dared to be a catalyst of change," and she absolutely is. What can we learn from Shirley Chisholm today? 1, representation matters, but it's still not enough. She fought to make sure that Black people and women had a voice in government, but she also demanded real policies to uplift communities. Representation is just the first step. Real change comes from using power to create opportunities for others. So we need to make sure, 1, we support Black candidates that support us. Support Black candidates that support us. Okay. Women candidates that support us, and progressive leaders. We need to advocate for policies that uplift marginalized communities, not just symbolic representation. We cannot wait for permission to lead, okay? Do not wait for permission to lead. She ran for president when no one thought a Black woman could. She refused to accept limits placed on her by others because you don't need permission to step into leadership, okay? And we need to remember just to take up space in the rooms that we are in and the places where we are underrepresented. And we have to advocate for ourselves and consistently challenge the status quo. Remember, you have earned the right to be in every room you walked in. Do you hear me? Make sure to speak truth to power, even when it's hard. She never hesitated to call out injustice, whether from white politicians, Black male leaders, or the Democratic Party itself. Change does not come from staying silent. We need to make sure that we're speaking up against all the isms, racism, sexism, any form of inequality, even when it's uncomfortable. And we need to use our voice and our vote to challenge the system. We need to also remember to build coalition, even with people who disagree with us. What does that mean? We may not agree on everything, but if we can agree on these things, how do we work together to get these things done? Despite facing sexism from Black men and racism from white feminists, Chisholm built coalitions across race, class, and gender, because movements grow stronger when we work together, even when we don't fully agree. How do we apply this today? By supporting intersectional activism that includes women, LGBTQ plus people, and working class communities. Shirley Chisholm was truly a force of nature, a bold, brilliant, and unapologetic leader who paved the way for future generations. Her life teaches us to challenge the system when it excludes us, step into leadership even if we're the first, use our voices for real change, not just representation, and to lift others as we rise. And another quote, she put, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." I will include that to say, at this point, if they don't give you the seat at their table, build your own table and invite those who you want to sit with you to come and join you. We need to remember that in this tumultuous time, because let's be clear, we're in challenging times, okay? This is a challenge in these streets right now. We cannot become so overwhelmed that we become ineffective. That is the goal, overwhelm. You will not overwhelm me with your foolishness. I will overwhelm you with my strategy. I will overwhelm you with my stick-to-itiveness. I will overwhelm you with my unwavering faith in the fact that I was created for a time such as this, and that there is this is my moment to shine. This is my opportunity to speak truth to power. This is the place that God has me in order to help bring forth the change that needs to be brought forth to protect the people who are being silenced or taken advantage of or mistreated, and to show you what it means to truly speak truth to power. What you gonna do though? How you gonna step up? What realm are you gonna be active in? And it doesn't just have to be one. My main one is education, but there are other places where I'm lending my voice, my talent, and my energy, and standing up, just like Shirley Chisholm taught us, to those who are in power, because representation is not enough. But we gonna see some change. Do you hear me? So where we gonna see some change at due to your good work? In all of this, remember, do what you need to do to be more than okay, because you deserve to be more than okay. And absolutely do what you need to do to live a life you love, because you deserve to live a life you love. I love you. Make it a great one. And see you tomorrow.